Today we're going to be talking about some awesome stuff. If you haven't checked out this channel yet, my name is WAGO Howard. I teach music in Hilo, Hawaii. If you're looking for a video that does like music edits, this ain't it. I just go over music theory and concepts, take questions from the audience, and then try to make it as fun as possible. One of the things I like to do is be able to answer questions on the spot, so if we could keep it on subject, that'd be super awesome, possum, amazing. If you take a look at the board today, we've got a couple crazy shapes and chords up here. A lot of people that play some music probably get as far as knowing how to play a couple chords on their instrument of choice, how to do a couple individual notations, like a melody or something, or being able to use two notes at once, like a dyad, and then make harmony structures. In rhythm, that's what we're shooting for. This channel is aiming to actually just break down harder concepts and make them bite-sized, so everyone can really start enjoying in their own writing process and enjoy music at wherever they are, at whatever level. So I would like to say welcome, aloha, and ask questions if you want. I can't spell. Ask questions. Why don't ya? So if you are here for the first time, I would love to hear from you. Say hi, howdy do, and then subscribe. There's a plethora of other videos on this channel. Today we're going to be talking about this stuff, but first I would need to do a background refresher. The background refresher does something along these lines. When we play in any key, I love to talk about something called the circle of fifths. When we use the circle of fifths, it is a landmark system unto which we can lay out chords, see their key signatures and their relationships depending on if they become a little bit more mysterious or have a little darker tone to them. And then we can also see modes, which are scales. And then all these things are built off of something we call tertiary harmonies. Tertiary harmonies are made from dyads, which are two notes played together. When we put two of those together, we get our chords. That's what I'm going to explain very quickly. If you haven't seen this sort of thing, I go into depth about this on other videos. Check those out on the live section for the channels. So for here, we put the chord that has no sharps, no flats. This one is C. When I count 5 notes, I go around the circle and I add them accordingly. The idea is each one of these adds on a sharp. So when we get to the key of A has 3 sharps. C has none, G has 1, D has 2, A has 3, so on and so forth. This is simply relating to our staff. So if we have some staff drawn up and we're trying to figure out what key we're in, and you see some sort of clef and then you see some sort of marking, this has 1 flat, which means we would go the other way. Now, it does not matter which way you go on your circle of fifths or your circle fourths, you just need to define that. If I wanted to go sharply or augmented, I would take the note that we have here and go up. The first key that has 1 sharp is G, and the note that it possesses is the F sharp. If you haven't seen this before, the Treble Club does one of these. If you get rid of this little, looks like lowercase l, you get the name of the clef. This here is the G clef. So when we count up G, A, B, C, D, E, F, we find ourselves on the top line of said treble clef. Doesn't mean just that line is the F, it means all the lines or spaces, like this one down here, right on the bottom space before the line, and the top line. This makes up an octave. This is what we call a P8. Each one of these are part of a series of notations. I use Roman numerals to do chord analysis and to explain the function of a major scale. Therefore, when we use the circle of fifths, we can say that each key signature shares 2 keys. The key signature of F major also has the minor of D minor. It is 4 notes away on the circle. C major would then have A minor, G major would have E minor, and then so on and so forth. When I add my sharps, I say G major has 1 sharp. That sharp is F sharp. D major has 2 sharps, which means F sharp and C sharp. When you keep adding sharps on, regardless of where you go, the aforementioned A would have 3 sharps. So when you say A major, you would say them with those sharps. A major, B minor, C sharp minor, D major, E major, F sharp minor, G sharp diminished. So if you've got that thus far, and you can see how all of these different key signatures and all of these different things take momentum, each time you go through, you use the sharps you've added. So when I get here to E, I would say, okay, A, B, C sharp, D, E. That leads me to E, which has 4 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp. So when we go through the process of saying, okay, E goes to B next, but how do I know that? It's 5 notes away. We're using the circle O-fifths going sharply. When we're augmenting something, we go up. When we're going down, we diminish by going flat. We use a lowercase d and a flat sign and an uppercase A and a sharp sign for both. That's what those terms mean. It just means going up by step or half step. E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B. That has 5 sharps. B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp. Cool. The next chord is F sharp, because you wouldn't have F here and F here. That wouldn't make sense. And then lastly for the sharps, because there's only 7 sharps, 7 flats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 would give us C major has no sharps and flats, so C sharp has all of them. C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B sharp, C sharp. If you want to add them with their sonorities, you could do it like this. If F major has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can see that the key of F, there are 7 notes in a diatonic scale, meaning those aforementioned harmonies that we make up the triads out of 7 notes. You have to know what that is to be able for us to explain what natural minor is, and we have to know what natural minor is to be able to explain what harmonic minor is, and then melodic minor ascending. So what we're going to do is we're going to delve into melodic minor ascending at the end of this video, but this is going to be the foundation for you to work on. I'm not going to prove everything to you. I'm not trying to get the mastery of music theory here. I'm just trying to make a very, very interesting concept in music be a little bit more approachable. I hope you dig. If you do, please subscribe, put a thumbs up, and remember, I'm trying to do this every Tuesday for an extended future. I do these videos for my students, so I'll have a plethora of things to refer back to, and I can make multiple different videos from this. If you have suggestions on how you do things or how you would like me to try and do things, put it in the comment section below. I would love to see it as well. So, going through this is a great practice mechanism. I'm not going to keep drawing all the minors because it's just going to take up eye space, but what we have learned here, most people would either write the A minor here, E minor here, B minor here on the inside. I also think that's a lot of busy work. I just memorized it's 4 notes away. It shifts. So the relative minor of E major, well, let's do E major really quick just so we can find out what that is. And then we'll refer to another key that doesn't have so many sharps or flats for our explanation of melodic minor. E major. Okay, so E major. No sharps, 1 sharp. That sharp is F sharp. Then we have 2 sharps, 3 sharps, and 4 sharps. So when we go uptown and we write this next to our Roman numeral analysis, if we could see that, we have an E, F, G, A, B, C, and D. The sharp that was in the key of G is F sharp. When we go 5 notes from the sharp or 5 notes from the primary, the root note, the foundation, we either find ourselves going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then going back a half step because the leading tone or lending tone is always the T-do. It's the one that falls right onto the root. It always will want to resolve that way and step. Okay, so when we're going through here, let's add the next 2. We have F and C. Let's add G and D. Cool. Well, D, do. A is our next key. Well, A has G sharp as its lending tone or leading tone. And then when we go A, B, C, D, E, E has D, which is ipso facto the last tone in a 7-note scale. How do we know and check that we're right on this? Sometimes I write, like E major and I'll forget a sharp. Well, E major is still E major, but if you forget to have that sharp, it makes a mode. It just means you have changed one of the notes inside of that principle of whole step, half step, whole step, half step. So here we have our spelling: E major, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, A major, B major, C sharp minor, and then D sharp diminished, which means when we play them, we have a happy tonality, then a minor, and then a minor again, and then a major. Major again. Here, the reason why this is making sense and I'm not playing like a B diminished is because all of these notes, they're part of a scale that use the key signature. So when I go to my last chord, it needs to be a D sharp, but it can't be a major. It can't be a minor. it needs to be a diminished, using tertiarily not a major third and a minor third, but now stacking minor thirds. Minor third to a minor third. These are just triads. When we add extension notes, like if we were to take our and have diminished chords, there are different types of them, and what we do is we utilize chords and notes that are inside 7 notes and then going above the octave or the 8. We then have different formulas to add those on. So having said that, let's just get down to brass tacks. In every key, we could go E, do, 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 and go, cool, C sharp minor is the relative minor. Or you could just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th scale position is the relative minor of the key. So in the key of C, C, D, E, F, G, A minor. G, A, B, C, D, E minor. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B minor, right there. Cool. That's one way to use a circle fifths to find your relative minor. The other way is to take the key signature you're in and then find the 6th and know that the C sharp minor, when we write it out on our staff, whenever we see something like this, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp. That lets me know we are either in the key of C sharp minor or E major. They possess the same notes. On the staff, when writing these out, I would have something along the lines of, let's say we're doing the C sharp minor, I would have my C note, then my D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C. However, I don't need to write the sharps and flats on my C sharp, my D sharp. They're already in the key signature. So when we go through these notes, we say them as such. C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp. So when looking at them through the eyes of the scale, we would have our E major scale that would represent 1, 3, 5 of a major and a minor. Well, we're not doing that. We're going down. And we're going down to C sharp minor. So C sharp minor has a minor third and then a major third. After that, our next chord in C sharp minor is a diminished. It's got our D sharp diminished. The major third is the E major. The minor fourth is the F sharp minor. The minor fifth is the G sharp minor. The major sixth is the A major. The B major is our major seventh. And then that falls right back onto our C sharp minor. That is how we look at the key of C minor, through the eyes of its relative major, E major. Now, the third way to get down on this is to take these chords and see them as just being able to take a key signature and look at it and knowing that you could take the scale position and then flatten 3 very important intervals. When we do this, I keep this in mind always. And I'm going to erase this and refer back to this, but if you haven't drawn the circle fifths today, I urge you to. Most of music is just understanding one concept, clocking time. If you can go C, E, G, D, F, A, E, G, B, F, A, C, G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F, you have just exhibited, you know how to name all your triads, or at least your dyads being made into tertiary form triads, through the key of C major. I did not say one key that had a sharp or a flat. None of it was augmented or diminished. So if you could go on an 88 key to the middle of the piano and find middle C, C3, C4, C2, C4, C, C1, F1, C2, F2. Going up in fourths, you can find those always. These are landmark positions on a piano for our 7 notes. These notes make up our C Ionian, or major, the first mode created in the key of C major. The next mode, when we move over, becomes something called D Dorian. So today when we do our melodic minor, we will find that they still have the same primary chords. Like if we did it in C major, we would have C major. Well, when we go to a C minor, it just changes the tonality. Well, that's what I want to talk to you about today. So let's pick a key besides C major. Seems like every video out there talks about it in the key of C major. How about F? So let's do D minor. Let's do its relative minor. F major has a relative minor like C major at A minor. It's the D minor. All right. You know, I just had a student, we were going through this. It's interesting to see this in different keys. When you move that around and you play melodic minor and A minor, it shouldn't, but it sounds just a tiny bit different than it does in B minor and D minor. Your fingers are in different places. They're up and down the piano if you're doing that. They're up and down the fretboard if you're playing melodically. And then for all intermediate players and advanced players that are watching this video, the construct behind this is about the practice, understanding what the names of these modes are that are derived from the basic 7 notes. When we take off a note and then we put a note up at the top and we shift the center away from the subdominant and the dominant, we have notes that tend to pull our ear differently. Hence, when you play a flat 3 on any triad and you take that mediant and go deepity boop, that makes every single thing you do a minor reference, because the first sound our ear hears is the dyad that is a minor construction. So let's get rid of this E major. Let's write our chord up here. Can we see without that glare? Where is my finger? Here we go. So our 1 chord, our 4 chord, our 5 chord would be in a major. But since we're not playing a major, I want to get rid of my major idea and play them from the 6. But I'm not naming the 6 as a minor 6. I'm naming it as a minor 1. The reason being, in the key of F, or how about this? Let's do the third way of finding what a minor key is. We're doing D minor, so let's pick D major. In the key of C, there are no sharps and flats. C, D, E, F, G. G has 1 sharp, that sharp is F sharp. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. G, A, B, C, D. Cool, so when we go to D, D has 2 sharps. One of them is F sharp from G. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp. Cool. So now we know the spelling of D major. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Notice I don't write the 8th here. It gets confusing to me. Do is do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So I only write them as I complete a scale all the way up so you can see 8 notes in form, because that helps us to get bearings of where we are on the landmark system and on the staff. However, when chit-chatting about music theory, I never really write the 8th. I hope that's not confusing. So here is the third method. You could either use the circle of fifths, or you could take any key, and you can see these as being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, as a major, Ionian. The difference between whole step, half step, whole step, half step is altered to a whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, when we're doing a natural minor. And that's what's given to us right here. So if I said the 6th of the chord is the B minor, so the notes of a B minor scale would be the same thing as a D major. Meaning, when we see the key signature of 2 sharps, this F sharp and this C sharp tells me that that could be the key of B minor, depending on the tonality of the song and what's being played in progression and the cadences and all sorts of other things that go into it. We're not talking about right here. If I were to just take from my B to C, the step is a whole step. So from right here, this gives me the spelling of what we're doing here. Whole step. The next one from the 2 chord, which we know in the key of D would have been a C sharp, so it's a diminished. Boom. And then this is a half step going to its major third, which I know we're talking about in the key of D here, but the major third here would be D. In the key we're going to go to, it's not. So what I want to do is just write out for reference, we have a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. That is what the spelling is there. In the key of D major, if we just represented any key as this, could be C major, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A major. The way we make a major a minor is to flatten the mediant, flatten the submediant, and then flatten the lending or the leading tone. That, not the dominant, the 5, but the note that when you have a triad and you add a 7th, whether a major 7th or a minor 7th, it turns that happy major seventh-y sound into a very distinct dominant sound. It feels very much like a passing chord, which is why we call the 5 a 5 dominant. Whenever you see a chord like this, you are taking the 1, 2, 3 of a major triad, like the 5 chord, 5, 6, and then 2, and then you're adding another note. Well, that another note is the dominant note. I digress. So when we go through the process of seeing D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, what we get is we need to flatten the third, flatten the sixth, flatten the seventh. That takes our D the same, E the same. We did have an F sharp, so now we have an F natural. When we go to our fourth scale degree, we have a G, then we have an A. Those were unaltered. The only one altered thus far, of course, is that median. Major, minor. Flatten the median. The next one is our flat 6. Well, we did have a B natural. So when we have this B natural, we must diminish it by a tone or a half step. When we diminish it by a tone or half step, it becomes a B flat. So that B flat minor has now become the 1 flat in the key of D minor. Why? We also flatten that C sharp to a C natural. Oops. Ta-da! That's how you do it in the key of D. That's why the key of B minor has how many flats? 1. I mean, if we looked at it through the eyes of the key of B major, we could do the same thing, right? Let's do that really quick as a conquest, just so you get in your brain how this works. B major, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. In the key of B, there are 5 sharps. The key of G has 1 sharp, G, A, B, C, D, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, E, F, G, A. There are 5 sharps in the key of B major. How do you make any major a minor? Flatten the 3, flatten the 6, flatten the 7. Cool. That makes it D natural, that makes it G natural, and it makes it A natural. How many sharps are in the key of B minor? 2. The same as D major. That's how you view it through the eyes of the major and flippity-flop for the minor. When you could do this in real time, it is much easier while you're playing something to be able to use functions of these. And that's really all we're going to be talking about with melodic minor today. So, how do we use this in a practical application? There are many, many, many channels out there that will talk about what I'm about to talk about, and they'll do it through their own special eyes and method. To date, I don't know if I've ever seen anybody do what I'm about to do, besides maybe a couple piano sites. But visualization of what these are, being able to go blah, 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 comes from the eyes of seeing what these notes are. So if we have chords that are triads, and then we have chords that have extensions or chords that use different notes within the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, those 7 notes. We find ourselves being able to manipulate the tones depending on what chords we're holding down underneath. So as an example, we were talking about doing F major or D minor. So I'm going to write our key up here. I'm probably going to play primarily in the C register, so I'll just see the treble here. I might throw a couple bass notes in there. For this, we're going to be doing what key? We're going to be doing the key of D minor. So I'm going to be adding 1 flat on the middle line of the treble clef because G, A, B. That signifies to me that I'm going to be playing in the key of F or D minor. So when I see D, I would write down my D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. How many flats are in the key of D minor? The 1. So I write that accordingly. If want, we could come up here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 again, or 8. Goes right back to the D minor. At this point, you can see how the writing of the Roman numerals have transitioned from being something that looks like F major, starting from our third, F major, G minor, A minor, B flat major, C major, D minor, E sharp, E diminished F. Going on through this process, we find ourselves being able to see that these notes are the core construction of how we build the dyads to make triads tertiarily. These are the chords we use to play up and down the fretboard. So let's just define those right now. This is known as natural minor, because natural minor is found naturally in the key of its relative minor. The concept behind this is when we're doing chord analyzation, and I should add my colons, we're going to be doing something along the lines of natural minor. I'll put over here an M, and we'll have D, F, A. Our next set of triads is going to be E, G, B flat. The next set, F, A, C, G, B flat. And then we don't have it here, but we have to use our imaginations to capture that D. G, B flat, D. The next note is going to be an A. We have a C, A, C, and then skip the D and go to the E. And if anybody's done this before in the major, this is just chord construction off of our triads, right? When we go to the next one, we have our B flat being our leading tone, which is super groovy. B skips the C, smacks that D right there, skip the E, hit that F, B flat, D, F. And then when we go to our last scale position, when we're going to the 7th, we find ourselves playing a C, skip the D, hit the E and the G. Now, some of these triads should look familiar to you because the concept in this key is we are only playing it through the eyes of D minor. D minor has a D, F, A. The next triad that we have, including the B flat, which is the only flat in the key of D minor, dyad, minor, dyad, minor, dyad, major. Interesting. Dyad, ooh, minor. See how when we go through the process of building just up these notes, we find ourselves playing the front half of a triad. DFA, we have E, G, B flat. That gives us our, you hear it? Minor third stacking. So that's our diminished. Our next chord is going to be our F major. After that, we have to have the G and then not a B natural, but a B flat because it's in the key. This is our G minor. Our next chord we go to is an A, C, and E, all inside the key signature. We'll know that as being an A minor from the key of C. And then when we go to our B flat, D, and F, we find ourselves not playing like a B diminished that's in the key of C, which would be its lending tone. But now we have a B flat. And because these notes don't have a D sharp or an F sharp or a D flat and an E, they're not other chords. We only have one choice here of a B flat, D, and an F. That there, my friend, is a major. That's a major 6. And then lastly, the C, because we have a C natural, C, E, G, makes a C major, which is great. And then when we do our resolution, we go to our D minor. Now, what you might be noticing is that in the key of D minor, we don't have our natural tendency to have a T-do. There is no lending tone or leading tone that falls directly a half step right into that resolution, which is why some people think that the reason why we have other modes or other ways to charismatically explain minor is because the natural minor deprives the listener of the piece of music from the opportunity of resolution. When you have a progression and it never goes back to a major 1, which the ear is anticipating, it feels kind of lackluster. Which means if you're playing something in the key of D minor and you have just the notes that are in it, can be pretty. It can stay within your chords, but at no point does it make you feel like you're like... When you avoid that major third in a minor key, you quite literally are depriving a resolution that might impact the way that your melody moves or the way that the song feels to the listener or to yourself as the composer. So the next thing we would do in a major key is see how the relative minor, the fifth of the key, is the relative. So in the key of F major, we have our sixth chord here, but we name it as the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This way, when you start adding on seventh tones, they also do something for the ear. In the key of D minor, when we play this and just stack another third on top, we get a C. Now this makes a minor 7 chord because C sharp would have been the major 7th in the key of D. Why do I say that? All music is viewed through the eyes of the major. So when we're talking about what scale position C has in relativity to D, we are quite literally talking about something that can either be a major 7th with a minor 2nd underneath it, like an inversion, or its counterpart, or the distance between intervals, causing consonants or dissonance, pleasing notes, or very disturbing tense notes. Or we could see it as a major 7th and then a minor 2nd. Vice versa. That's how minors and majors work. Here we have an E, G, B. We obviously know this is a diminished E, G, B flat. When we skip the C and we hit a D right here, our D in the key of E major, we have 4 sharps: E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, and D sharp. So if we have another note that's not the D sharp in the key of E is the major 7th. So D natural is the minor. So this one is a diminished 7 chord. Boom. That's how we talk about chord construction. We need to know what this is to be adding that next layer of awesomeness that is the melodic minor. The only thing we need to do in the next 1 minute or two is touch on natural minor just so we can talk about what I just talked about. Tito! The reason why natural minor isn't effective enough to give emotion or feels like kind of deceptive is because it is. It doesn't really utilize the full potential of different notes that can be heard by altering just 1 or 2 notes. And the reason why melodic minor is really great, you alter it so much that one of the scales is called altered. Okay, when we go through here, FAC makes a major FAC. If we skip the D and hit the E, we have a face. That face makes this what? What is the E in the key of F? F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. Oh, well look at that. This makes up a chord which is a major 7. Boom. G, B, D. This is a minor chord. When we take G, B, G, B, D is a major. G, B flat, D, that a minor. If we add the F on top of here, we know in the key of G major we have 1 sharp. That sharp is F sharp, which is the major 7th. So here, when we have a minor, we now have another minor 7th, just like our first chord. Seeing similarities. Here we go. A, C, E is also a minor, because in the key of A major, we have A, C sharp, E, D, F sharp, G sharp. So here we go with the minor. And then when we add our next note, A, C, E, and then G, boomity-boom, we know that, as we just said, G sharp is the major 7th, so this makes this a minor 7th. When we go to this next chord, the B, flat, D, and F make up a major chord. B flat, D, F, and then we add the A. In the key of B flat, if we were to say B major, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, we know that there are how many sharps in the key of B? There are 5. So when we play B here, the only 2 notes, B and E, are the only 2 notes in the key of B flat that are flattened. The rest of these come down here and just become naturalized. B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G. So if we were spelling a B flat major, we would have B flat, D, B flat, D, F, there's our major. And now if we have B flat, D, F, and we add the A, that A becomes what? You betcha, the major 7th. So we've got a major 7 chord here. And then C, E, G is a C major, C, E, G, same one you played in the key of C major, or the key of G, or in the key of F, as we're talking about right here, or D minor. When we play this, we have our next note, which is our B flat. Now this is where it gets kind of fun. The B flat that's represented throughout the whole thing changes all of these triads. C major, we know that when we have a C, D, E, F, G, A, B, B is the major 7. Therefore, B flat is the minor 7th. That makes this into a chord which has a major and then a minor 7th. What do we call these types of chords? We just call these dominant 7ths. So the back end of this is we can name this major 7 being a major 7. These all here are minor dominant 7ths, minor dominant 7. Cool. That is our chord construction of a natural minor, unto which I will play right meow. It looks like this. We just add on a note. D minor gets C. Isn't that great? Once there was a way, not the right key, to get back homeward. Next note we're playing is an E, G, and a B flat. Well, if we add on our D, ooh, listen to that dim 7. The next chord we have our major, or is our F major, but we're going to add the E, right? So we have that beautiful major 7 chord. After that, we have our minor 7 chord. We're going to play a G minor, 5, 1, flat 3, and then when we add, here's our G, here's our major 7, here's our minor 7. Wonderful chord. The next chord we're going to hit is our A minor, but instead of having a resolution to the octave or the major 7th, we're going to have another dominant, minor 7th. After that, we have another beautiful chord. We're going to be playing up to our B flat here. B flat, D, F gives us our major, right? And then we're going to be adding the A. So on top of that, our A note, listen to that mesh. Gorgeous. And then lastly, we have our C, E, G, and a B flat, which has a lending moving tone. It goes right back into our dominant chord into our D minor 7. So gorgeous. So, having said that, those are all the chords of the natural minor. I want to touch very briefly on the construction of a harmonic minor and then move right into melodic minor. Here we go, meow. The only thing we're going to do here is change our chord construction by one way. A harmonic minor allows us to feel and utilize that T-do, that lending tone, or in this case, we're going to take every one of these notes that used to be D, E, F sharp, minor 3rd, G, A, B. Now it's a flattened 6, super awesome. But we're going to put this one right back to its sharp, which is the note that was charismatically used inside of the key of D major as the D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Now we have D, E, F, G, A, B, C sharp. Hear how that note is such a jump from here, from the B flat? It's going from a B flat, past a B, past a C, right to a C sharp. That is a huge jump. That's a 3rd, minor 3rd to be exact. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to see how relatively every single one of these notes that was our C has now become a C sharp. So our C sharp, boom a bam, bang a bing, bum ba bum diggy. Okay, so here we go. What do those chords now sound like? We have D, F, A, and then a C sharp. We have just changed in our key a major 7th. Why is my battery not? Oh, my camera. Yeah, well. So when doing this, we've taken our minor chord and we've added this. This is what we now call a minor major 7. That's pretty cool, eh? That has changed this tone to be able to move with a different chord. E, G, B is still going to be a diminished, but when we add on our D, it does nothing. This one is still charismatically going to be our dim 7. Boomity boom. Otherwise represented with circle. You can see that there. You might sometimes see like a whole you call these half diminished. There's full diminished as well. We'll get into that in another thing. F, A, C sharp. We now have something that is not F major, do we? Here we go. We're going to take F, A, C. Well, what is a chord that has a raised fifth? When we have a 1, 3, and then a sharp 5, we call them augmented. They give and build tension. So here when we have E, we still have a major 7. It's an add-on chord. Augmented major 7. When we have our G, B flat, D, it's still a minor. This F would make it a minor 7. This one did not get affected by what we had just done with our changing because there was no C in there, and it only was affected by the B flat, which we already know from natural minor. A, C sharp, E. Holy geez, we've just turned this into a major rather than having a minor, and because this is still here, what this turns this chord into, it's a major chord with a dominant. So it's a minor major 7th. I'm sorry, a major minor 7th. You could also call it a major dom 7. I like to do that too. B flat, D, F. This is a major chord, did not get altered, and then we have our A here. So we've got our major. A is going to be the tone that's leading right in there, so it's our major 7. And then we have a tone now with the C that turned into a C sharp, which has definitely changed into a different chord. It no longer has that tendency to be like C, E, G, and B flat, which is our moving chord, our 5 dominant in most cases. So C, E, G, now we have a sharpened tone here. What happens to here is we have turned all of these tones into something we would call an augmented or an altered chord. So the way that we're going through here is I'd like you to see that just by playing through these chords on our, a piano is what I'm laying it out before because a lot of people like to see how these notes just from these notes, all white keys except for the B right here, how these notes turn into all of these different scales or modes. Well, what we just did there was having, when we utilize the C sharp, all these chords change from what we would have had as this chord to this chord. So that first chord, we have a minor with a major 7. Well, that has a minor major 7 tone. That's a beautiful jazz chord, you know? Thelonious would be happy. The next chord we derive, we still have the G, B flat, D. You can add it up there, but that's not the chord we're looking for. We're just looking for. You can alter those any way you want, but the dim 7 we're looking for has to stack 1, 2, and 3. Feels pretty good. We can use the F, A, C sharp, and then E now to get the augmented with the major 7th on there, because we know that leading to Tito. Gorgeous. And then the G minor, and then when we put our F into there, it doesn't get altered by our C sharp now. After we have our chord there, we go from the G minor. Now this totally changes the aspect or the portrait of the songs because we now have an A major with our G, right? Another gorgeous one, right? Major with that dom 7. Feels almost like a C sharp diminished. This is our 5 dominant chord or our major dom. The next we would have our B flat, D, F, and our A. This one doesn't get altered. Also another wonderful chord for our major 6. And then now instead of having a C dominant, we have a C sharp, E, G, and a B flat. See how this has turned definitely into another diminished chord. So we have altered this one to be a C sharp diminished 7. So one of the ways that we see this C sharp diminished 7 is seeing it just being as another aug chord. Or a aug 7. So if you have made it this far in the video, this is actually where the video takes hold. I will go back on these and do timestamps, so it's a little easier to follow this mumbo jumbo that I'm talking about. However, this is the real crux of the biscuit is. When we take these chords right here and then we utilize this as being a naturalized note, we have changed from our natural minor, and then when we changed the one note of the C sharp, we were making our harmonic minor. And now today's explanation is going to be melodic minor. What we've done is we've taken these chords out of context, put them in the key. You don't need to put it in the key signature because that's what these accidentals are for. When we have accidentals, the only accidentals are every note that doesn't have anything in front of it is a natural. Looks like that. Any note that is sharpened or augmented by a half step has that. And then any note that is augmented or sharpened by two steps, being halves, semitones, they are called double sharps. It also works that way when you go flat to have a single flat, which is what all flats are. And then we have a double flat. I don't think we're going to get too much into these because we're not playing anything crazy today. But here, we most definitely would want to put B natural. And we would also want to have F natural right here. This now tells me that we are in D melodic minor because we have a natural third. It should have been an F sharp. We have a natural B. It should have been a B flat for the natural minor. And then when we have our C sharp, we go through here. This gets kind of interesting too. Melodic minor, when we draw these out, we would actually erase all of these other ones. I've written them out over here just so we can verify them. When we go through the key of D, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, and C sharp. Now, the two notes that we keep the same are in the Ionian mode. The only difference between Ionian and melodic minor is that third. It might be confusing, but I like to put a natural here and a natural here, or remember that they are just not there, and then only use those natural notes when you are writing them out on the staff paper. It will help to do it when you're reading. All right, so here we're going to go through taking all these B's, turning them into B flats into B naturals. Cool. Right there, we have our spelling. Took out all the B flats of all these notes. When we go through the process of seeing what these are in order, we find a DFA is still a minor, but now it has a major seventh. So this is known as a minor major chord. The feeling of this minor major chord might remind some people who enjoy Sean Connery and Pierce Brosnan. This, what are we doing? D. Very awesome sound with that cluster. It's just a smoosh of chords. Our next chord that's derived out of there, instead of having a D minor with a major 7, we did have a diminished chord. Now we don't have a diminished, we have a minor. More importantly, we have a minor, and then going into our chord, we have a dominant 7, so it's a minor dominant. We also just simplify these as calling them minor major chords. Our F, A, C sharp, E now still contains the same feeling that we had. F, A, C sharp, E. This is still an augmented, and this chord right here, this note right here, is still the T do to the key of F. So you're seeing how the chord construction of a melodic minor, how after having a happy sounding chord, a dominant chord, the dominant chord's moved into an augmented feeling, so it throws a lot of tension. Augmented with a major 7 just happens to be what we call a lot of the chords we play over the top of our 3 chord. The fourth chord that we go into is going to be a Dom 7. Why? G, B, D. It's now a major. We don't even have to say it any other way. It turns into something that we utilize all the time. G, B, D, G major. That 7 over the top, it's representative of its minor 7 chord. So G major has 1 sharp, that sharp is F sharp. We keep saying it. If you keep saying it, keep doing it over and over and over again, it becomes a lot easier to memorize these. So the next one, A, C sharp, and G, this one as well turned into a major chord, turns into a dominant 7. B flat now turned into a B natural, which means we don't have that feeling of having that major chord there. We have now turned this feeling into a different type of construction. If you move these chords around, you would see D, F, A, and a B as being another chord. Chord construction would call that a minor chord with a major. And one of the things we do in this is we like to play our minor 7, like a B, D, F. So when we play our chord over here, which was our B major, we would have, or our B flat major, we would have had this, right? So since we have our B flat, D, and F, it is no longer a B flat, D, and F. Our chord construction would feel like a B, D, and F right here. But if we had our flat 5, this is our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we would have a cluster here. Well, we know that our major chord should have had an F sharp, right? Well, that's not in this key. We have an F natural. So we get this kind of like diminishing sounding. Well, that is our flat 5 charismatically. A D, F, A, that's our 1, 3, 5. If we were to take that through and then throw in our B, we would have this chord construction. So over the top of that, most of the chords that we try to see there or play over the top are a major 7 and then a flat 5, including that E in there, giving it a little bit of smushy smush tension. We'll explain that more when we're going through theory about jazz theory, because you know, one thing I've yet to talk about here, and I need to wrap it up because I have a student coming in, but there's something called ascending melodic minor and then descending melodic minor. These are the chords of this. The last one we do has this kind of augmented, diminished feel. What we're doing is that is more of an augmented feeling with a dominant 7, and then we play it as an altered chord. And the reason why I say that is we've manipulated these notes so much that when we move the notes by step in this charismatic fashion, it derives these modes. Now, the modes that we do from this, and this is what gonna be what I want to end on, because I want everybody to be able to kind of like visualize this in their own head. The modes that we call these after we present them from the D natural minor and we add like a 7th there, we can add different tones. But here's what all the notes in the key are. We would have a D, E, F, G, A, B, C sharp, D. So when we're playing, we are utilizing the natural minor note, and then we have sharpened this to our natural state of the 6 that was presented in the key of D major. So a natural 6, our nat 7, and then into our 1 with a flat 3. The notes and the modes that we use over the top for melody structures when writing and doing chordal analysis allows us to see melodic minor ascending and then natural minor descending. That's traditionally the sense, but it doesn't happen so much in blues and jazz and bossa nova and stuff like that. So when we hear chords that sound great, like a major minor chord, it might rot our brain to think that a D minor, when you're playing in the key of F major, and you go down to your D minor, after you put extensions on it, like a 6 chord, if you play a 6 chord after this triad, D, F, A, then B, all the modes that go over the top of this really fit, and you get to pick which one sounds good. I love just melodic minor. When we play these notes as a cluster, when you play it as a minor major and you have that kind of feeling, pocket, back to natural minor. So what I suggest is try to sit over these. Pick a chord from the key. So let's just pick let's pick not D, not E, not F, but G major, because we're in ascending now. G major with our 7 chord. So we're going to put the F over the top there. And hear how that works. Practice is. Being able to do runs that involve the same notes, make dyads that make cool sounding harmonies, and then try and get outside the pocket. And then find some sort of rhythm that fits over the top. I mean, that's the best advice I can give you. Most of us that play in these will use the last one, which is called altered dominant. So I just want to show you what those are. When we do the first mode has all the notes that we just talked about, the C sharp included, right? This one is called melodic minor. When we move over, we simply have a note that has a half step there. So what we're expressing here is something called Dorian flat 2. The meaning is, when we played just Dorian in the key of D, we would have D Dorian. No sharps, no flats. So what is D Dorian flat 2? Well, you just take the 2 chord and you make it flat. So over the top of that same G7, resolve up in half step. It wants to resolve down in half step, which is why it gives it that tension. The next one is called Lydian augmented. Now, if we know just our major scales, D Lydian would be 1, 2, 3, sharp 4. So when we're playing this through the eyes of D, our D Lydian augmented, we would take that major 7th, because that 5 chord needs to be the note that we augment. So we'd have 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, that's Lydian. Now instead of having 5, we would have sharp 5. 1, 2, 3. Now this is going to be our what? We have our 3rd chord here, so it's going to be our minor. But in this case, we've changed our chord to be a minor, the F, A, C. Nice. So this feeling is that aug because we changed the chords. So in here, what we would have when we're playing through the eyes of D, we would have D major. Well, here's our augmented chord, and here's our Lydian note. So our D, and it has a very cool feeling. If you play that G7 again, you could have. Oh, I slipped into D flat, D Dorian. The next one we have is D, or a Lydian dominant. Simply meaning it has that same charismatic 4. In the key of D minor, we would use G. So we would have G, A, B, C. Now, here's where the interesting thing comes in. When we have our Lydian, we have to raise that to a C sharp. So it would be G, A, B, C sharp, because that's now in melodic minor, or G Lydian dominant. And then we also would have what? Our raised 5th. So 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, sharp 5, and then back to our constructive chords. Right? When following through this method, you'll find that these notes go with tertiary movements with triads, not mixing major and minors, but some of the chords that we talk about, the last two here, will. Our half diminished is our second to last mode that we use over the major chord. So like in this case, we'd have our B, D, if we alter that, we would have some sort of mesh here that makes our ear feel weird. In this case, we've got our E there. The point of this is when we work up these modes, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. We just include that there. 1, 2, 3. See how it's a moving step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. These are the tones of these modes. This is a very popular one. Next being, the half diminished. And then the last one being the dominant or the altered dominant. And then this one we would definitely start on the C sharp. We would move through our modes having the same notes. So I can think of like a million tunes off the top of my head, but you know what? Doing a little bit of the legwork on your own is always fun. Can I ask for a sec? Yeah, what do you want? Please, I'm confusing. No. Never mind, I'm going to sleep. Man, attention span on that one. That was hard, Hazmat. Sorry I missed you in the 2 minutes that I was doing something. Tell you what, if you're still here and you have a question, I'll wrap it up, but I do have a student at 10 o'clock. But they haven't knocked on the door yet, so I think we're still kosher. In summarization, the modes that are derived from the key of a minor are natural minor modes. They are named the same as your major modes. In a natural minor, you would just have your 6th scale degree being called as your 1. So you would have, let's say in the key of C major, you would have A minor. So you would have Aeolian, Locrian, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, and back to the minor 1. When you make it natural minor, it alters those just a little bit, and you can go through the process of seeing all the modes of natural minor, and then all the nodes of harmonic minor have different names because we have altered one note. We would alter that leading or lending tone. And then lastly, today in summation, melodic minor utilizes the flattening of only the minor third, leaving the natural 6th and natural 7th to give the tendency of something super, super special. It changes all the triads, as anywhere that there was a B flat is now a B natural, and anywhere there was a C natural, there is a C sharp. If you have an instrument of choice, go through playing those. If you're confused about how to make these jazz type chords like a minor, major 7, please check out this website or go and Google pretty much anything on the Googles. Pick it up. There are some really, really amazing people out there. Check out Jens Larsen. That's probably the best thing for guitar, I would say, as far as chord explanation. He is very soft-spoken. He speaks slowly, but he plays a little fast, but you can watch it a million times. Other than that, Rick Beato is more popular mainstream, but watch some of his earlier stuff where he talks about chord construction. He drifts in and out of it. His videos are just so long and so in-depth with information. Although, maybe mine are too in-depth and too all over the place. Who knows? If you like my videos, put it in the comment section below. Subscribe. Send this to somebody you haven't seen in 13.3 years. And maybe we learned a little bit today. If you do this a different way, also put that down in the chord construction of the comment section. And maybe we can get to it. And then ending on this, the altered dominant 7th chord typically is a dominant 7th considered altered on either or both of the 5 and 9. So when you play a chord that has a 1, 3, 5, and then you play a chord that has, like, let's say a 1, 3, 5, and it adds the 7th, because anytime you go above the 8th, you kind of want to put in your dominant note as a stable foundation to your triad. When your triad has 3 notes, those 3 notes, if you add a note, like an add 9, yeah, that's fine. Here we go. Here's a D minor, here's my 8, and here's my 9, right? So this is a D minor add 9. which is fine. But when we're playing our modes of the melodic minor, sometimes the note of a 9 doesn't fit well with some of our notes, because what we have is that, like if we were playing the Aug chord, Aug with a major, minor, Aug minor major, some of the notes won't mesh, meaning when you go through your scale preferences of 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, natural 7, 1 for harmonic, you would want to have something like A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A for the key of A minor. Having it in melodic minor, some of these notes when we move them change, because now we have that F sharp. So do you see how moving these notes all together, even this one, changes that second and third one directly? Well, the modes of melodic minor sometimes gets fuzzy if you're going to be like, I'm playing in the key of A minor. I want to do like a 3, major 3, minor 4, minor 1. But the modus I want to use over the top of it is Dorian flat 2. Or I'm not Dorian, but yeah, Dorian flat 2, but use it with B, because that's the second note. So we would have our hear how that one note doesn't feel right, but when you put it in context of being the altered dominant, you can use that and then move in time tertiarily. So if your A minor chooses to add a sharp 5, it alters that minor chord to a chord which is not so much an augmented chord, because that's reserved for a major. That builds the tension between these chords. There isn't the same tension, because when we move this note over here, we only see this now as being an inversion of F major. So what happens by going through all of our modes through the eyes of every key, when we do this, we find ourselves being able to see that some modus don't work and some do. The reason being, in the altered case and the half diminished, or at least in the Lydian dominant, Lydian augmented, some of the notes clash. Like in Lydian augmented, I'll leave you on if we did like those 3 notes that fit right there just super clash. Why? Lydian, D Lydian augmented in melodic minor would feel exactly like having these 3 sharps. F sharp, G sharp, F sharp, and A sharp. Well, what happened to D sharp? It seems as if a key that has 5 sharps, like B major or its relative minor, G sharp minor, the idea is we would be able to explain ourselves by moving different things around. I hope that wasn't too confusing at the end. Last thing I want to leave you on, when you're doing a root, third, 7, these the chords remain unchanged. So root, third, and then 7th, no matter what it is, our root structure becomes the same. The chord is not changed. Fifths, when you raise or lower it by augmenting or diminishing it, or you're causing something to happen and you need to make a respelling of your notes enharmonically so they fit the name. So like if you're doing a C7 sharp 5, it could be written as an A flat, you know, C7. So we have a C7 sharp, flat 5, sharp 5, right? We can rewrite that as a different key. We would write that as an A flat rather than writing it as that, because it makes more sense to write it with the leading tones in mind. This changes when you do stuff like adding a major and a minor third. These major minor chords is where you might be tempted to call the chord something like a minor chord with a flat 11, but a flat 11 isn't used because of the minor third of that chord. I wouldn't use the minor third of a chord and a flat 11 unless I was trying to cause some sort of weird tone or an alteration that I wanted to move through a melody. And both of the alterations of a 5 and a 9 can occur simultaneously. Meaning, if you have a major chord and you alter the 5 and you have your 9 chord up here, like playing a D, and you want to alter that, you can and keep some structure down here and work in different intervals that cause dissonance. And lastly, the flat 13 is considered an enharmonic equivalent of the sharp 5. So whenever reading these, you can see the sharp 5 as being preferred to naming it as a flat 13. However, you're going to see both on lead sheets. You're going to see both on on chord charts. And the best way to do this is to sit down for a half an hour every day, clock some hours, and go through one modus. So if you're on the guitar, does this thing work? Yeah, it doesn't work. Ain't got no juice. Anyhow, I'm over my time. If you have any unanswered questions, please put them in the comment section. I will get to those. I hope this was a fun adventure for an intro to melodic minor. Remember, the key takeaway, there's a lot of information to figure out majors, move into minors. Once we experience the world of minors through the eyes of natural minor, and then we get to go into stuff like the melodic minor, it changes the way that we feel about music that we've already heard, music we're hearing currently, and music that we're going to hear. And I hope it changes the way that you write. Absolutely. Anywho, aloha!